He had a supernatural light, and he possessed the very characteristics of God. That's what Moses was. And the only way that you could identify, not from their fundamental teachings, but by the characteristics of God. Listen, there was a sound of a shout of the voice of the king with Israel. We've got a voice of a sound of the shout of the king in our camp too. That's how you can tell the difference. Amen. Praise the name of the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. You may be seated. That's how they could tell. They could hear a shout of a voice of the king. That's us too. That we have that same voice. It's always tied to the voice. And this time, it's in the end time, it always points back to one thing, a voice. A voice. There's still yet another spirit that was in that day besides Balaam. And this day, it's the same spirit. Brother Branham says those spirits never die. He says they keep going on, and keep going on. They just go to different people. And it's the same that he even said with the prophet. He said, you might quieten that prophet, but you'll never quieten that voice. This message will go on and on and on. And that spirit, if it was possible, he said in that end time, he said that spirit would be so close. He said if it was possible, it would deceive the very elected of God. We all know that, amen? Jesus said the two spirits in the last days would be so close till it would deceive the very elected, if possible. Religious people. Now remember, there ain't nothing out there in them old, cold, formal. He's talking about denominations. Outside, they have just a form of godliness, you see. But those two spirits, the real spirits, would be so close till they would deceive the very elected, how that they were working side by side in the last days. Side by side. That's parallel. That's running side by side. So they working side by side, they would have to claim this message. You would have to claim that this messenger. You would have to complain that this was the voice of God. That's close. But it will not deceive the very elected, the bride. Because we stick with the original.